so you've worked billionaire divorce cases, you've worked a whole host of everything else in between. So let's kind of talk about some of those. What types of divorce cases do you find that you work the most?
So the divorce cases I work the most are the ones where we're either trying to figure out where the money went, whether there's missing money, or where we have people whose incomes are off the charts, literally. So most states have charts for child support, guidelines that involve typically percentages of income and things like that. You know, how many children are there? What percentage of income and how much time is the child spending at mom's house versus dad's house. So when people make too much money and they're off those charts, I do something called a lifestyle analysis to figure out exactly how much money are they making, because in most of those cases they're making so much money that it's not a straightforward earning situation. It's usually not. They have a predictable paycheck and we could figure something out. There's something else going on. And so I am looking at either how much they make, because that may play into it. But in many cases like that, I'm looking at how much they spend. So, what does the lifestyle cost? Because the idea in general is that the kids and the spouse are entitled to continue living a similar lifestyle after divorce. So, if they were in a luxury house before the divorce, we want to figure out how much that costs them every month so that an amount of money can be paid in support that would allow the ex-spouse and the kids to live in a similar type of house. Now, it doesn't have to be the same size necessarily, doesn't have to be the same location, but if it was a luxury house before, we're going to look towards it being a luxury house going forward of an appropriate size.
Okay, so in these situations, what types of documents or information are you most often requesting?
So, just like regular fraud investigations, I am very heavily focused on bank statements, credit card statements, investment account statements. So, I'm really tracing the money just like a fraud investigation. And like I said, some of these divorce cases, we are trying to figure out where the money went or if one of the spouses is hiding money. And so, at the same time, I'm doing this thing to figure out what do the numbers look like for support. We're also looking for, is there any money missing, or has money been spent on affairs or addictions, or like in one case, we uncovered a rental property that the husband had in his name only in another state that the wife never knew about. And we uncovered some evidence of that in the form of an electric bill that he paid out of the wrong account. He had a separate account for this property to try to conceal it, and he accidentally wrote the check out of their bank account. Wife never saw it until I came through and I said, "Hey, you're in Illinois. A check was written for a utility company in Arizona. Do you have any reason why that would happen?" And usually in normal cases, I'm expecting them to say, "Oh, yeah, his mom and dad live out there and he must have covered it for them," or something like that. And she's like, "No, never heard of it." Got a private investigator involved and he uncovered the real estate in Arizona. So super fun to be able to do that. Back to your question, it's all about the statements and all about tracing the money.
Yeah, so going back to this story, I got to go back to the case story just for a second and follow up question here. So what was the property for?
It was a rental property.
The
However,
for income?
however, if I had to guess, it was probably he probably had a girlfriend living in it. I mean, that's what we usually see, right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so it was probably a rental property that coincidentally a young lady lived in.
Yeah, so in our cases, we'll also look at finding hidden assets and so forth and the way we describe it is to like to create this to make sure that property settlement there's this complete marital balance sheet to divide between the parties. But you said also, that whenever you're looking through these statements and so forth, you might find evidence of affair or addictions or things like that. How does that play into an individual's case?
Well, in divorce cases, we talk about marital waste, or in some states, they use the more proper term called dissipation. And so, if a spouse was spending significant sums of money for a non marital purpose, then that can be recaptured. So, let's say the wife had a drug addiction and blew $100,000 on drugs. half of that, $50,000, really was husband's money. And so we want to try to recapture that. Obviously, the money's gone on the drugs, it's never coming back. But if they are dividing other accounts, like let's say there's a retirement account to divide, the judge could say, okay, husband is going to get an extra $50,000 of that retirement account, which I otherwise might have divided 50-50. And so even though in most of the cases, whatever money was spent inappropriately is just gone and never coming back, I do see that there are opportunities to recapture that when they are, dividing the equity in the house, dividing a retirement account, or maybe there is another investment account somewhere that was untouched. And so there is a chance to get some of the money back.
Yeah. I think the focus of the client in our cases is always on, well, he's cheating or, well, he's doing this. But from a divorce standpoint, that's why I was wanting to know how you've used that, because from like the judge's standpoint, he's like, yeah, okay, there were problems in this marriage. This is why you're in front of me today, But the client always wants to talk about that drama when, as an expert, a forensic accountant, we're looking at how do we capture this to make sure that I mean, ultimately, it's all about the property settlement or future support, right?
Right. Right. And so we're also always looking for instances where money may have left an account and we don't know where it went. So there was a $10,000 withdrawal out of the bank account and we have no idea what it's for. And so that goes on a list of money that's unaccounted for. And whoever signed that withdrawal slip in my mind has to account for that. And if they can't show where that money went, then our assumption is that it got hidden somewhere, spent for something inappropriate, and half of that needs to come back to the person that I'm working for.